Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are delighted to welcome Chris Martin, playwright and author of the young readers' books Inky Stevens, The Schoolboy Detective. And Chris has very kindly offered his time this afternoon to come along and tell us all about his writing journey, how he got into writing, to give us some top tips along the way, and hopefully encourage us all and you out there to take part in our 500 words writing challenge that we're running this November. So sit back and enjoy. At the end, if you have any questions for Chris that you'd like to put to us, or if you'd like to know how you can get hold of one of his books, and even just give us some feedback on the interview, then please do get in touch and we'll be happy to help. So when it came to writing your first book, where did you get your ideas from, Chris? And did you actually have anybody to test those ideas on?
What it was, towards the end of my teaching career, I pretty much knew that I'd reached the end. For a variety of reasons, I'd really just had enough. But it was after 22 years teaching. And then, of course, you think, well, now I'm thinking about leaving teaching. What do you do instead? So then the obvious thing was, well, Murder Plays is doing really well. So, I know, I'll become a full-time writer and it'll be really easy and I'll just write books the next day. And I was thinking, well, what can I write about? And they always say in your English lessons, always write about what you know. So you kind of think, well, what is it that I do know about? What do I feel confident about writing? And it only took about 5 minutes to come up with it. I thought, well, I know an awful lot about schools, the way schools run, the people in them, the humour, the kind of dark humour, the banter. So I knew all about that. And actually, well, by then I'd probably written about 15 plays. So I'm quite good at writing mysteries and murder mysteries. And I really like crime fiction's my favourite genre. So it was a very quick decision. I thought, I know, I'll write some kind of whodunit set in a school, and I'll have a teenage detective go undercover within school to sort it out. And it only took about 5 minutes, and I've actually just got something to show you. There we go. It's a HSBC bank statement.
I thought you were showing us your bank account then.
But what I did was, before I forgot the idea, I actually wrote the name. I thought about, well, what name? And it just came to me, Inky Stevens. Oh. And so I wrote on this. It was just the first piece of paper that I happened to come to hand. I framed it now because I like to sit with it. It's where it all began. And I just wrote Inky Stevens, the great school detective. And from there was still probably about 6 months to the end of the school year. But then I started thinking about this character, who he would be, what would happen, how it would act. And it's funny, in the school where I was teaching, as I was a drama teacher, there was a wooden shed backstage in the school hall. And this wooden shed, it was kind of like a garage, just a little bit smaller. But it was purposely bought to store stage costumes for the musicals, so they could be locked away. So there was this shed backstage, and I kind of thought, I wonder if Inky, every break time, he will sit in this shed, and everybody in school knows he's there. And if anybody's got a problem, they can actually go to him in this shed backstage in the school hall, and then he will listen to their problems. And if he's sufficiently inspired, he will then go undercover within school to solve the mystery. And that's roughly where it all originated. I kind of pictured this character as a dark, kind of moody, introverted young man troubled by demons, and yet the way he deals with it is to help other people, almost as if he can't confront the things in his own life, but he's prepared to help others. And in the first book, it was the school caretaker, who's called Fred Varley. He finds Inky because he's lost his bunch of school keys. Basically, the keys to the whole school have gone missing, and they went missing when he was working in a particular place where he was visited by 4 people. So one of those 4, they all visited individually. So one of those 4 people had to have taken his keys. And from there, Inky goes on undercover within school to try and work out who it was, with the whole school open, unlocked, vulnerable, with some kind of menacing figure out there somewhere. And that was the start of it all.
Fantastic. So who did you test these ideas on, or did you share it with anybody at the time, or wait until you'd finished the book?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I think we've all been attracted to these kind of characters. That type of character comes up an awful lot. The idea of the Clint Eastwood, or even the Incredible Hulk, or from fiction, you've got Lee Child with Jack Reacher, and these characters are very strong, who just happen to show up and to want to set a particular problem right. But with my idea, I thought, I mean, if you think about crime fiction, everybody seems to have a detective that's solving something. Every author's got some kind of figure. But I didn't think it had been done in schools, and that's what I thought would be different about my series. And when I was taken on by the publisher, that's what she was drawn to. She just said, I've never heard of a detective series being set in a school before, or certainly not in the way that I'm doing it either. So in some ways he was unique, but then in some ways he was based on favourite characters of mine, these Avengers or writers of wrongs. Actually, I was reading the James Bond book recently, one of the ones that's been written since Ian Fleming died. It was an Anthony Horowitz one called Trigger Mortis. And again, the James Bond figure, there was lots of similarities, this kind of brooding, introverted figure. So there tends to be quite a lot of similarities with many characters from fiction.
Yeah, brilliant. What about the writing process? When you actually write, how do you write? Do you write in chunks? Do you spend a day? Do you sort of take a week off to write? I think people are always interested about the writer's day.
Yeah, I don't think that I actually have a set schedule, although I am fresher on a morning or afternoon. Sometimes if you leave it too late, you can become a bit tired, and perhaps beyond that point, you just think there's no point in actually writing. But essentially, it's become part of my life. If I'm not writing every day something or thinking about something, there was a point when I'd written 2 Inky books and I'd self-published the second one, and it was just so much work involved that I just thought, I can't put myself through it again, because when you self-publish them, and there are great things these days and put things on Kindle and Amazon, but the sales, there tends to be a flurry when friends and family are kind enough to buy copies, but after that things tail off. And with the plays, they've always sold well. So I actually kind of thought, well, there's no point writing a third book. There just isn't the market where there was for plays. And I actually went back to the plays for a while. And of course it was then, after all that time, that a publisher just happened to get in touch, express an interest. And even then there was another 6 months. And then finally she said, yes, we are interested. And even then another 3 years after signing the contract before the book actually came into print. But during that time, I felt kind of disorientated, because I always need to be thinking about something, to working things out. And I read a lot and borrowing ideas and phrases. And
I was going to say, do you have a book and you write all your ideas in it? Do you carry it with you everywhere you go?
Yeah, I could run through, because I'm writing at the moment. I've got a couple of books here to show you. But yes, when I'm reading, I'm jotting ideas and things come. But often they're so intricate that I need, it's like the latest book is set on football, and it's a football team, but there's certain matches on certain dates and certain people scored and didn't, and that's all part of the mystery and how it comes together. And I need to write everything down. When I'm writing my plays, it's the list of suspects, who know, and then you've got to work out, well, who knows what about whom, who's going to reveal that. And it becomes almost like one of those.
I was going to say, like a big mind map almost, with all your ideas on. And I don't suppose you want to lose any of them, do you? Because you don't know if you're going to need them again.
Oh yeah, I kind of keep them all just for prosperity. So I've got books and books filled with characters and who said what and evidence. And then at the end, when you're kind of deconstructing it all, you need to go back over the whole thing and work out, well, what was the evidence? What was the false things? Why is it this person and not this person? And the key to it is to, when all the red herrings, all the myths, there can only be one explanation. So you discount everything for various reasons, and then the reasons why it was this person is explained. It's very, very complex.
So do you have all of that in your mind before you write your book, or does that grow as you write? You know, do you know the ending before you start?
Yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it. I prefer not to know, because I think for my third book I kind of based it on one of my plays, and I didn't like the fact that I knew what was happening next. And in a sense, I know some authors like to map everything down and it's all written and planned and meticulous, but I kind of like to leave it a little bit fluid, because your characters surprise you. In my second book, it's set in school at winter. And then I was just thinking, well, what do kids do in the playground? What, you know, so some are sliding along, some are making snow angels. And it just happened that one youngster picked up a snowball and threw it, and it hit a teacher. Now, which reminds me of something that happened in my school days. But that, just from that little remark, a whole subplot emerged, where the head teacher, this teacher was very badly injured by this snowball, which was hurled with quite some force. And you've almost got, you know, your writing takes a whole new angle, and it's nice to be able to run with that and see where your characters lead you.
Yeah, I've heard that before actually, about people's characters, you know, almost coming to life and taking over. It sounds like yours are like that.
Yeah, it's like they'll say things and do things that you wouldn't expect. You've got to have that flexibility.
Yeah.
The way I write is, the starting point is the crime. So you kind of work out, well, what's going to be the subject? What is Inky going to investigate in this novel? And from there, I tend to know who's done it.
Right.
But then getting from the crime to the final conclusion, I prefer it to be fluid and not to know. When I'm writing my plays, Act 1, there's always the death at the end of Act 1. But I don't know who did it. I've got the suspects, I've written everything down, everybody's got a motive, everybody's arguing, there's all this. But it's only after writing Act 1 that I'll sit back, read through it all, and finally decide who did it. So then it's like you have to go back into it. It's like it's a cat's cradle, where you try and take it out and piece it together and hope that it falls in the same order. But just as we were saying earlier, I don't actually call it writing as such. I love writing. Writing's great, but it's editing. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and it's almost like I can't move on until something is absolutely set and I'm happy that it's good as it possibly can be, before then moving on to the next chapter. But even,
I was thinking then, with all that effort, I mean, obviously a lot of effort goes into it. How long does it take you to write your book from start to finish until you've actually done it and you're happy with it?
Yeah, it's almost like you can't let it go. I liken it to sculpting, whereas a sculptor will start, he or she, with this kind of amorphous, is that the right word, piece of rock. And gradually, as you're writing, you're kind of shaping and chipping and constantly refining, until finally that sculpture arrives right at the end of the process. But I also liken it to painting the Forth Railway Bridge, whereas when it's all
you never stop.
it's literally, you get to the end, go back, re-edit it, get to the end, go back, re-edit, and it's just endless. And you're competing against, you know, all the famous writers who've got editing teams behind them, teams of people, you know, ghostwriters, whereas it's you on your own and you're trying to create something that's as good or that stands, can stand alongside that. It just takes, so probably I would say, you know, I'm not doing it full time every hour, but probably a year for each book.
A year, yeah. So do you not fall out of love with it by the end of the year?
No, just
you're still as passionate.
Yes, but you almost know it off by heart because you've gone over it, and there's bits you look forward to. Oh, I like this bit. This is the exciting bit. And some bits less so. But I was shocked when my first book, The Caretaker's Keys, the poster behind me, was the draft that I sent to the publisher was 80,000 words long.
Wow. You think there's about 250 words on a page? Yeah,
I'm not quite sure. It's just different fonts that you use. It was 150, but by the time she'd edited it, it came back at 37,000 words. Wow. And I was absolutely horrified. I just thought, there's half my words gone, these beautiful words that I spent endlessly fashioning. But what happened when I started to read it, what I realized was, and I'd suspected it and people had told me, that I was trying to write an adult book for young adults with all the vocabulary and the intense description, whereas I know for young adult fiction, we're looking at about 40,000 words.
I see, yeah.
And the editor, plus me being a teacher, I was including lots of silly comments about schools and details about teachers and things going on. And what she did was just draw that story out so that anything not connected with the story just went. And actually, she knew the market, and she took a long time doing it, but it kind of, it makes sense, you know. So now I'm a lot more focused on trying to keep those words down. So perhaps
it's really good advice. Yeah, it's really good advice, because I suppose it's hard to know how much to write for it to be the right length, isn't it? So that's really useful.
Yeah, because when you're starting, you don't know where it's going, and you can't plan, and you know, it's only when you've reached the end that you then review it.
Yeah, so you need to know your audience, I guess, and who's going to read it, and how much do they read? Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been taking it into schools, and I want school youngsters to do it. They're really warm to it. I think what I was writing before, it was just I was trying to write the perfect adult novel for youngsters, and they always say that it takes you about 5 novels before you get any good at it. And obviously I've been doing my plays before then, but I kind of appreciate that now. And you do finally, it's by learning. I mean, I taught English, and
so I guess that's some good advice, is not to be too upset about cutting bits out and making changes and so on. Yeah, that's good advice again. Thank you. Move on to a question about your writing area. Do you write by hand? Do you type your novels? How do you actually? Where do you do it? What's your writing area like? Do you sit on your knee at night and do it?
It's just through there actually, but generally, it's all computer based. But I don't know how other people write, but to me, a novel doesn't just emerge. It's you write a sentence, look at it, change a word, find a better word, change it around, and it's constantly. To me, you need the computer for that, because constantly changing, or I am clipping, adding. You'll hear something. Oh, that's a good phrase. I'll do that. Or there's a clue that you think will fit in. So it's just on the computer. I always have a drink with me, a cup of tea or coffee. I always have music on quite loud. I'm not listening to it, but I can't do it. And it's nice to surround yourself with things that you're comfortable with. But essentially, it's just me and a computer. The laptop that I'm looking into right now, we take that on holiday. So I've been known just to sit and tap away, because when you've got a bit of leisure time and the words are there, to have time to write and ideas. It's like living inside your imagination. You become very, very absorbed.
So what's the funniest thing that has happened to you as a writer? Is there anything that really stands out?
Oh yeah, there's a number of quite strange things. There was once, I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier about selling plays to the Falkland Islands. One of my plays, it was Who Killed the Ship's Captain, was performed on board a warship which was anchored just outside, is it Port Stanley? And I was liaising with the lady who was thinking of buying the play by email. And then I got the message, did you used to teach in Bridlington? I was like, yes. And she actually said, oh, the captain remembers you. He sat here. And I'm like, well, what? And unfortunately,
You hadn't taught the captain, had you?
I hadn't. Well, I probably did, but the drama as an option basis, he didn't take it as an exam. But I didn't remember him by name. But yeah, he remembered me and was describing. It's quite strange as a teacher, you kind of work in isolation, whereas these young people that you teach, he was captain of a warship that was anchored outside the Falkland Islands, and you're thinking, oh my heck, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there's other, you know, it's strange to think how people go on, but yeah, perhaps the weirdest thing is because I write murder mystery plays, a gentleman rang me up and asked if I wanted to go find Lord Lucan. And he swore that he knew where Lord Lucan was and wanted me to go to Africa to find him and to write my account and go find him.
So perhaps that might be one of your next stories about Inky.
Oh, yeah, it's funny actually where you get your inspiration from.
Yeah.
I know what he's going to go on to next, but I daren't think too much because then I'll get excited about the next book before finishing this book.
One. Yeah. So is there anything that you would do differently as a writer? You know, if you did it all again, or things that you've done differently?
Yeah.
Change your approach, maybe.
Yeah, I'm still not sure if I'd have known what it all involved at the time, whether I'd have got involved in it at all.
It's a funny thing to say when you're actually enjoying it so much.
Oh, it's fantastic. You know, I suppose if the words are in you, and you know, and I'm still not sure where I am because it's probably 8 years since I wrote the first word for Inky, and it's taken 8 years for the first book to appear. But then, if anything happened, meaning if it was to take off, you know, I'm still on the first rung of the ladder. We're still talking years. Inky would make a very good TV series, very good films. But again, it's just getting out there. So again, it's like starting the process again.
Yeah.
So much as I love the murder mystery plays, it's my website. I put them on, I sell them, and they've been very popular. I'm very lucky. But I spent a year writing the first book. And then I went to Chorley Writers. It's like, well, I've got a book. What do I do with it? And then it becomes very complicated. You'd be aware yourself in lockdown how many celebrities have got books out or are writing books, or you know, and you're competing with all these people with all this backing and publicity. But it's nice at my point in life. It's quite exciting to be able to do what you want and try and live this journey. But yeah. As I said, after writing 2 books, I actually just realised, well, there's no point. You know, you put them out. I self-published the second book, and then you're taking it round schools, but you just feel I'm showing off. You know, you need the publishing house behind you. And
so I suppose there's a difference between writing for pleasure and then wanting to sell your books. Yeah. And
there's fantastic. If you're writing for pleasure, you can put things on Amazon on Kindle immediately. I think there's over 3,000 books on there. Sorry, 3 million. And there's probably more now. So how on earth is anybody going to find your book and buy it? And then you're reducing your rates. But for anybody that wants to do that, you know, you publish straight away. Also, there are services where you send your book off and they will bind them, put them together for you, put a cover on. So you can actually have copies of your own book literally within days.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
then you need that the weight of the publishing organisation behind you
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
then take it to a different level.
Yeah.
And I think after writing 2 books, I'd basically written it off, and it was just at that point I came back from holiday and there was a message on the answer machine, and it was from an agent that I'd written to months before to say, well, actually, I might be quite interested in Inky. He sounds quite.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that particular thing done before. Can you send me the full book? And
So you'd written to lots of publishers already, and
yeah. It's a minefield and it's very difficult. Some want the book, some want the first chapter, the first 10,000 words, your favourite chapter. Some want it emailed, some want it in hard copies with so much double spaced and certain fonts. You're almost trying to play this game when, well, I've since realised that I'd heard one publisher gets 300 submissions a week and they publish 12 books a year, and you just know that you just, you know, how to stand out, you know, what they're looking for. You just got to send it off, and then it's your cost. You put printing and emailing and postage, and you know, some want a synopsis and some want a synopsis in a certain form. It's just so
it's very, very like different, isn't it, for each publisher then? Yeah.
Oh yes, people want it different ways. And then there's agents as well. That's another area. You just got to play the game and hope that somebody takes an interest. And I was lucky that Hogsback Books just happened to see a potential for this character, and then asked to see more. And even, you know, again, it's 6 months to sign the contract and another 3 years before the first book appeared. But the second book's coming out in March.
Well, you've done it, haven't you? And the thing is, it's proof in the pudding that if you keep persevering, keep trying, eventually, you know, you will get some success, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and if you're determined to do it, just right, you know, it's fantastic.
So, Chris, can you tell us anything about your latest book? Are you able to give any information without, you know, spoiling the ending for us?
Oh no! Oh yeah, I do know the ending. Oh, I can't wait to get there. It's because I know where it's going to be set. I know what's going to happen. And put it this way, I've got 2 friends in the fire service who I'm going to go to do a bit of research, because it's going to end in a particularly fiery situation. I won't say any more than that. I'll just backtrack a little bit and then come on to it.
Yes.
I've shown you my book. I've done enough about this. Again, I self-published my second book. Now you can see that cover. Now I've always pictured Inky as quite dynamic, dark, bleak. I liked the kind of mysterious setting. I actually called it For Whom the School Bell Tolls as well, which I'm not sure is a good title or not. In fact, the publisher hated it. But so I quite liked this, and I saw him as a mysterious character. Where's Inky? Oh, he's in the lettering there as a figure in silhouette. I really love that. And then I got the this particular cover, and I just thought, well, I'm not sure. We had fun working out what the emblem should be and what the Latin inscription should be. There's a lot of thought went into that for the school badge, but I thought, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I like the picture to my own book. But again, you've got to bow to the publisher's better knowledge, and what they're bothered about is branding. What they want is to see across a bookstore your book and to instantly know that it's your book and it belongs to a particular series. You're probably aware, you know, from books that we read, they've all got a kind of thematic string to follow along. And actually the branding of it, the score, so each book will be a different colour. It will be a school book, and again with the caretaker's keys, representing this particular book.
Yeah.
But it's a very clever idea. And also, this was the case of the Caretaker's Keys. And this one, A Call for Whom the School Bell Tolls. It's branding. So the second book, she didn't like the title. She wants every book to be the case of whatever.
Right. Yes, yeah.
And with it being set in winter, the second book's the case of the abominable snowball. I mentioned the snowball earlier.
Yes, yeah.
And everything is linked. If you think of the Harry Potter series, it's all Harry Potter. And
you just know them, don't you?
It's so clever. They know the marketing. I'm not sure and again, titles are so important. I'm not sure about the third book, because I think that's got a better title. But the fourth book, the one I'm writing now at the moment, is called The Case of the Perfect Pitch. Now, I've always wanted to write about football. I've played a lot of football in my time, and I've been there on the pitches and in the changing rooms and the training session and the characters involved and the camaraderie. So although, obviously football's not for everyone, but Inky doesn't like football. However, it starts in the changing rooms. I really had fun writing that, with all the shenanigans and the tomfoolery going on with the school team. They've just won the semi-final, and the final is a few weeks away, and obviously they're jubilant. And I think it starts off, I don't know if you know this, they wind a towel round and flick it on people. So
no.
All right.
I've not really got a lot of knowledge of football.
No, I don't either. So they're up to all these kind of things, and it's misty and steamy. They're singing and dancing and laughing about, and it's great. However, the team have got a star player. He's called Julian Malloy. He is far and above anybody else in the team. The team revolves around him, relies on him. He's like championed as a hero, and he gets the acclaim around school. However, he expresses some concern when the date of the finals mentioned, but it kind of filters away, and he asks the PE teacher, the manager, "Can I have a word?" And then that's when the scene ends, where he's explaining something to the manager, while outside the window's slightly ajar. There's a suspicious character listening in to what's being said, and that's it. And then the next chapter is one of the members of the football team finding Inky desperate. They're 3 days away from the final, and this star striker has gone missing.
Right.
And that's the crime.
Yes.
Inky has basically 3 days to locate this star footballer who has apparently disappeared off the face of the earth, and yet the manager of the team doesn't seem unduly bothered by that, which is strange in itself.
So you think it's the manager?
The game's.
Or is it? It could be.
Yes, well, yes and no, but whether he is or he isn't, he knows more than he's letting on. And Inky, I'm just about to write the bit where he's going to have to invent an excuse to speak to the manager. He's going to pretend that he's interviewing him for the school magazine in order to elicit certain pieces of information. But I know what's happened to him, but it's obvious from the first 3 pages what's happened, but only when hopefully you've read the end of the book and you think, of course it was there all along, but you throw so much out. But no, I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to get back writing, really.
You're making me want to sit down and start writing now as well. I've got an idea for a story. I've got one. I actually picked it up when I was on a train, and I spotted something on this train. And this idea has been sat there now for like 3 years. So you never know, Chris. I might be competing with you very soon.
It's funny, because the idea for Inky probably happened that signature that I showed you. It took 6 months before I could finally. But I know that the 5th book will be because he's in year, well, it's actually set back in time a little bit. And I quite like that. I didn't want mobile phones. I didn't want people texting one another. So it's kind of like more the school of my youth with a little bit more mystique. There's no CCTV, proper detection.
Yeah, which could spoil it. Yeah.
I've kind of set it back. But so basically, Inky's in the 4th year, but in modern terms, that's year 10.
Yeah.
So it's going through the year. So each book is written a few months after the previous one. And this, I think we've said already, I've had problems with the timing. So it was set in June, it's now set in May. But I think the 5th book will be about a school trip. Yeah. And I like the idea. You might be able to remember it.
on the end of year trip, you find the holiday.
You get on the coach and you can almost smell it, and there's chewing gum under the seats, and the teachers lifting the skylights, and off you go on this. I don't want to think too much about it yet, but I like the idea of it starting with the bus journey as they go away, and it'll be in the summer holidays. So then that's halfway through Inky's journey. So.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
You've certainly inspired me there. That's amazing. You've given us lots of advice, Chris, in this interview. I've made a note of some of it. Write about what you know, make plenty of notes and keep your ideas. Be patient, with your writing process, but flexible as well.
Yeah, edit like mad.
Yeah, editing like mad. Know the end, but don't be too, structured. Let it develop. And also, like knowing your audience as well. You've talked about, haven't you? Who's going to read it. Yeah, superb advice there.
I'd spent a year writing a book, and somebody said, "Who are you writing for?" And it's like, well, I'm writing for young adults, obviously. But the inference from that was that you've not written for your audience. I chose to ignore that, but obviously when the publisher got hold of it, it's a eureka moment, and you say, But sometimes they actually say one piece of advice is to write it, put it in a drawer for a year, get it out when it's left your head, and read it as if you were reading, and you get a sense of what's good and what's bad about it, what works and what doesn't, because you can't do that while you're deeply engrossed in it. But not everybody's got the luxury just to write something and put it away for a year. It's a lot to fit into 500 words, though.
There's a lot there, but it's just been really enjoyable listening to you as well. Even if people don't use any of that, it's just been so interesting listening to how somebody writes and how passionate you are about your books. So it's been fantastic. Thank you very much. And we really do appreciate you, getting our writing projects up and running. So we'll be posting the full video. Maybe in chunks, possibly. It depends on the size of it over the next week or so, and then people can enjoy it. I know you've been very kind enough to send a sample through of one of your chapters, haven't you? So people would like a copy of that.
Oh, right.
Is that okay for me to share it? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant.
All the details, because again, part of the game is to get out there and to start publicising. So if anybody might be interested, either the murder mystery plays, please get in touch. All the books, if you've got children or grandchildren, roughly 10 to 14 years old.
If you fancy buying one, they're on Amazon, are they?
Yes, I've got my website, chrismartinwriting.com, if you want a signed copy. Or then, it's on Amazon, Waterstones. It's yet to be released on Kindle. But again, that's part of the marketing strategy. That'll probably happen in the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I'm sure you've inspired some people to get hold of one and have a read, if anything else, just for their own pleasure.
Oh yeah, it's intriguing. Even though it's for young adults, I still think the mystery involved, it's not an easy mystery to solve. And yet by the time you realise who did do it, everything falls into place. It's so obvious, and yet it isn't obvious at the same time, if all that makes sense.
No,
and then you've got Inky's backstory and all that as well. And so happy writing, everybody. I wish you all the best. I'm always here to be contacted if necessary. And thanks, Leslie, for getting in touch and giving me time today.
That's really kind, and thank you, Chris. So, what I was going to say is, will you be entering our 500-word competition?
Oh, right. I've not thought about that, you know.
You might not win.
I'm not very good at shutting my words down, so it might not be. But if you send me the details, I have got a couple of writer friends who might be interested. Yeah, I'll have a think about it.